Hi everyone, so I've been teaching some English language paper techniques and I wanted to do a video to share it with you and also to help my students remember. So we're doing GCSE English language paper, and in the language paper in section B you will need to do some creative writing, and one of the options is to write a story. So what I'm going to do is show you the basic story arc, and this is what you will use to plan a story and to come up with a story that makes sense, has a logical flow, and that will help entice readers. So let's get started straight away. Now, when we're doing a story arc, what makes a story interesting? So if you think back to a movie, if you think back to a book, maybe your friends told you the latest gossip, what is the most interesting part? Well, the interesting part is the problem, the thing that some character or person has to solve. It's how they go about solving that problem and go from maybe not very happy and then build their way up. That journey and the coming to a resolution is what makes a story interesting. This is why we have stories that have stood the test of time, like Shakespeare, like Charles Dickens. They have been around for hundreds of years and we still read them, we still study them today. As many of you know who are doing literature, maybe you're studying A Christmas Carol or Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, maybe you're studying The Tempest or Romeo and Juliet, or Much Ado About Nothing, or any other Shakespeare play. Let's look at our basic story arc. So here we have a basic story arc. Now, up here is our climax. This is the main event of the whole story. As one of my students described it today, it's the point that everybody goes mad. It's the point that makes you go, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next? I can't believe this has happened. But how do we get to this point? Now, here we have in the very beginning, so if we come down here, we have our introduction. In our introduction, it doesn't really matter how you introduce it. When it's creative writing, it's your story. So, but you will want to introduce characters, setting, so the who, the where, and the what, the problem. Now, at this point from the introduction, we're going to have rising action. Now, what I mean by rising action is events that build suspense. And what does that mean in a story? Well, that means characters discovering something's wrong. So they're discovering a problem. Face a challenge. What else can you think of? We've got events that build suspense. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's external influences on the character. And throughout this introductory period, it's slowly going to be getting hotter and hotter and hotter. So let me change that. Let's go from yellow. So we've got yellow here. It's a bit mellow. Then we go through to rising action. Got some orange, and then we're at red hot. It is crunch time. It's climax time. We don't know what's going to happen. It's very stressful. And as the reader, you want to feel the stress of the characters. That's how you're, as a writer, going to get your reader involved. And you can do this through creating tension in the setting. So whether maybe Charles Dickens does it really nicely in A Christmas Carol, where he builds tension in how the reader identifies with a character through Scrooge, and he uses something called pathetic fallacy, which is comparing the weather to a person, or using weather characteristics to describe a person. So he describes Scrooge as bitterer than the bitterest wind, just to create a very visual, very tangible, so something you can feel in a way through your own personal experiences in life. Then, the climax, this is the problem. Then what happens? And I'm going to start changing to a different colour. So then, we've got rising action. Then after the climax, we're going to have a resolution somewhere between here. And this is going to be, you're going to be showing how the character solves a problem. After we've got the character solves the problem, it's going to get cooler. So here, we've got our winding down. We're winding down. And this is called falling action. You're going to start drawing the narrative. So drawing the story, the plot, to a close. And then we have our end. Now, with an end, you don't have to end it on a happy ending. You've got lots of options, and after all, it is your creative writing. So you want to make it fit with your story. So you could have happy ending. You could have a cliffhanger. It is up to you. Now, what I do want to say about this story arc is you can play with this story arc as much as you like. You can go, let's do another layer here so you can see what I mean. What colour haven't I used? Let's use purple. So, with a story arc, you could have a much slower beginning. You could then go up here for your rising action and have a small challenge, and then go down again. And then go up all the way to the climax. And you could stay there for a little bit and then come down to your ending. That's okay. You could also close that. Have even more, just so long as your story is interesting, just so long as you have thought about how you're going to build these dips, these peaks, so that you have a story that people can follow. So let's close that. So with a creative writing, this is the basic structure. You need to introduce what you're talking about. You need to build the action. You need to build the suspense and the tension and introduce your characters, your setting, and your storyline. Then you need to get to the tip, the peak of the problem, the point where everybody goes mad, where you as a reader are like, oh, what's going to happen next? You just want to keep reading. And then you need to come to a resolution and slowly fall to the end, where you tie it up, which could leave people wanting more, or it could tie the story up completely. Happy ending, princess lived, happy ever after, etc. It's your story, you can make what you like. But when it comes to your GCSE exam, you have what's suggested in the language paper, you have suggested 45 minutes to write a story. They give you 5 pages of lined paper in your exam booklet. That is not a lot of time to brainstorm, plan, and write a story. As such, do not write an epic. You could have a big problem like the world is going to end. But with the world is going to end kind of problem, you might need a lot of build-up. There are a lot of moving parts to the story. What I suggest is keep the story a bit smaller and go with quality. It's a short story because it's only 5 pages and you only have 45 minutes to write it in your exam. You also need to make sure that your spelling, your punctuation, and your grammar are flawless. Now, I know your teachers have probably said this to you, but actually having good grammar, sentence structure, spelling, and punctuation is incredibly important for communicating to your reader what your story is saying. If you want someone to be interested in what you're writing, they want you to be interested during reading, use the grammar and punctuation to your advantage. If you want to make something more suspenseful, create more tension, you might think about using short sentences. When it comes to creating a description of setting or a mood, you may want to lead the reader more on a journey through the feeling, which may mean that you might want longer sentences to draw that out. Language is created in a way so that we can use it to our advantage to create a certain mood. So I want you to keep in mind your audience. Your audience is your examiner, and your examiner is going to be reading hundreds of papers. You don't know whether your paper is going to be marked first thing in the morning when they're fresh and bright, or you could be last thing at night when they've had a terrible day, they're knackered, or they're just feeling really ill and they do not want to mark these papers, but they have a pile, so they need to get it done. If your writing is flawless, if your story is easy to understand and it has some interest to it, you are going to make it so much easier for your examiner to go tick, 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 tick. Having correct grammar, sentence structure, and spelling will be a long way to helping you do that. And then we can work on this story arc. Create something simple but interesting. Focus on quality, not length. So that's it for today. We'll be doing more videos on the English GCSE exams. I'll be doing some stuff on history, religious studies, and study skills. So if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments. I will endeavour to get back to them as soon as I can. If you've got any video suggestions or questions on the exams of topic material, just let me know in the comments below and I'll see what I can do about making another video. Okay, good luck with your studying and I'll see you next time.